The C++ string class is not actually a fundamental type. This is a class from the standard template library. These objects are very different and significantly more powerful and useful than C strings, yet in many ways they work very similarly. It's important to understand the distinctions. Let's go ahead and make a working copy of cpp-strings.cpp from the Chapter 5 folder here in our exercise files, and we'll paste this into our working project. Scroll down and double click on that so that we can open it up. And here we have a C++ string. You'll notice that I simply declare it with the string as if it were a type, and this is standard in the C++ object-oriented model, that I can simply put the name of a class as if it were a type. The design goal of C++ objects was that they could be used just as you would use any first-class type. And so by including IOStream, I get these strings, and I simply declare it and CPP string, and this is a C++ string, and then I can output it. And exactly as I did, this is exactly the same code that I used in the C strings example. I'm able to iterate through it as if it were a C array. Let's go ahead and save this and run it. And there we have it. This is a C++ string, and there's all the characters in the array. So there's 20 characters in that array. If I go ahead here and say, what is the size of this? And we run that, we see that it says the size is 8, and that is simply not even close to reality. So we see that it actually works very differently. It looks similar, and you can use it in many of the same ways, but it's really a very different animal than the C string. So I'll go ahead and I'll get rid of that. And let's see some of the other things that we can do here. Now, first of all, you'll notice that we're testing for a null byte at the end, and the container class that this is based upon will actually emulate that behavior so that it can be used just like a C array, but it's not actually like that. And it's more correct to do something like this. To say, well, I is less than the size of the string. And we'll see that this ends up working exactly the same, but it's just a little bit more correct. So what this is, this dot size, that's actually a method in the string class. And when you instantiate this C++ string object, then you get all of the methods in that class, and size is one of those methods in the class. Even easier, you can use the new C++ for iterator loop, and you can simply say, like that, and then obviously you don't have this I anymore, so we'll take that out. And you simply printf C like that. And so this is a new paradigm in C++ 11. This is an iterator loop that's used with the same for keyword, and you just have any container object and its fundamental type, which in this case is C. So C++ strings are a container of characters. And this will work just like this, except without the index numbers to the left. So there's each of the individual characters. So you can actually iterate through that loop just like that. Of course, you can also use C++ iterators. There we go. So that'll get us an iterator from the beginning. And this auto keyword, this is also new in C++ 11. This allows us to not have to type out the very long type of that particular iterator. We compare it to the end. As long as we're not at the end, we can go ahead and iterate through the loop. There we go. So we got a little bit long there, but there it is. And now we no longer have C here, but what we have is what's pointed at by the iterator. So the loop ends up looking like that, and I'll bring this down to size again, and we'll compile and run it, and we see we get exactly the same result again. So now we're simply iterating through the container with an STL iterator. Of course, the string class also has a lot of member functions, and we'll be covering those in the chapter on the STL. But you can see here, this is just an overview of the C++ string class. You can see the distinction between these objects and C strings. C strings are very simple, they're very basic, they're a fundamental type in C. And C++ string class is much more rich and has a lot more overhead. So now let's delete the working file and run clean to get set up for the next lesson.